everyone, my name is Katie from Lady Red Crafting, and I'm super excited to have you join me today on a fantastic decoupage journey. Get ready for some creative inspiration and hands-on crafting fun. And without further ado, let's jump right into the world of decoupage. For this craft, we're going to need a napkin, a 4x6 canvas, and 2 colors of paint that you love. The paint colors that I'm using are Flamingo Red from Apple Barrel and Ballet from Waverly Chalk Paint. So I'm going to start out by just painting a nice little layer of the pink paint on the bottom of my canvas. And once I've completed that, I'm going to take a little bit of that pink paint and I'm going to put that in the center between the pink and the red and add just a tiny bit of that red paint so we get a little bit darker pink. And we will then take that pink paint and we're just going to paint another layer. Now we'll just repeat the same step and we're going to add a little bit more pink and a lot more red. And we're going to just continue going up the canvas, adding layers of paint. This is just going to give a faded look of a darker layer going up the canvas until we get to the red paint. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit so you can see all of the layers as I paint them on this canvas. But if you haven't tried doing this with a canvas, it is definitely beginner friendly and they turn out amazing and you can use any colors that you would like to combine. For my last step here with the painting, I am going to take the darker color paint and use that for the perimeter of my canvas, but you could paint that with black if you'd like, or you could just paint all the way down the edges when you're painting the front of the canvas and have that layered look going all the way around. Set the canvas aside and we're going to unfold our napkin. I'm using a piece of painter's tape to help take the layers off, but painter's tape, masking tape, they all work really well in helping getting that, especially that second to third layer that most napkins have, because that layer really sticks to that front top layer. And you want just that top layer of the napkin. And once we have that top layer of the napkin, I'm going to cut out just one of the squares. Then we'll set that aside with a little bowl of water and a paintbrush. And using our paintbrush, I'm going to go around the perimeter of this little heart on our napkin. Next, we're going to take our fingers and we're going to just lightly tear around the perimeter of the heart. And you just take both fingers and just go really lightly. And this tears fairly easily, so you got to be a little bit careful when you do this. And once you have teared around the outside of whatever item you are on your napkin, I take a little heat tool and I dry everything on the napkin just to make sure everything is dry and looks the way that I would like it. Grab our canvas and our little piece of napkin. And I'm just going to set that napkin on top of our canvas and decide where I would like it on the canvas. And eyeballing it, I'm going to take some of that lighter colored pink paint and I will paint a heart on the canvas where I would like that napkin to be. And I'm going to just fill that in with that lighter colored paint. I do this because I want my napkin to really be bright on my canvas. And so this will help make the colors in the napkin stand out by having a lighter color underneath it. Let's go ahead and grab some Mod Podge. And I'm using the matte Mod Podge. I feel like this is a better fit for my canvas. And I'm going to just paint around the outside edge of my heart. And we're just going to continue doing that all the way around the perimeter. And then we'll lightly paint over the whole entire heart. So while we have a quick moment, I wanted to say thank you to all my current subscribers. Without you, I couldn't continue to grow. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd like to invite you to subscribe so you can be a part of this channel and all of its fun. Now back to our project. Once we've completed the Mod Podge, I use a heat tool to get the drying process started. And now that everything is dry, I grab my Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster and a round brush. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take just a little bit of a dry brush and just go right around the heart to give a nice finished edge on that canvas. And wow, this turns out so great. Now, I added a little bow at the top corner. That's totally optional, but I just felt like I needed a little bit more since it's such a small piece. And wow, I love how this turns out. It gives the painting such an amazing look using that napkin and all of those intricate pieces. For our next piece today, we're going to use a wood ornament from the Dollar Tree and the top layer of our napkin. First thing I'm going to do is use a piece of painter's tape to tape down my wood ornament to a paintable surface. Using my Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster, we're going to coat the whole entire top layer of this wood ornament. Next, we're going to go ahead and grab some Mod Podge, and we're going to paint a layer of Mod Podge over the top of that plaster colored paint. And once the Mod Podge has completely dried, we'll go ahead and set the napkin on the top of our wood ornament. Then grabbed a piece of parchment paper and an iron, and I'm just going to iron down my napkin on this wood ornament. So I would love to hear from you today. If there is something that you would like to see me decoupage or have a question, please leave a comment below and I will do my best to address every one of you. Now that our napkin is attached to our wood ornament, I'm going to do a technique where I do the Mod Podge again over the top of the napkin before sanding down the ornament. And this technique works well if you're not going to put anything on the back side of the ornament like more decoupage, because we do not want it to accidentally stick when it hasn't had time to cure. Use my heat tool to help assist in the drying time of the Mod Podge on top of my heart. I grab my very favorite little sander, my little zip sander, but you can use a sanding block if you'd like instead, and I'm just going to sand off all of the remaining pieces of the napkin. This ornament did have some cutouts in the heart, so I'm placing this on a cutting mat and using an X-Acto knife, and I flip the ornament over so that I can cut any of the remaining pieces of the napkin out of those heart cutouts. Now let's flip that over and see what this looks like. It is so cute. So I wanted to take this piece and I'm going to add this to a black canvas. And this is one of those canvas sets that you can buy at the Dollar Tree. And I'm just hot gluing this heart onto the canvas. More of a polished look, I'm going to add a little bow to the very top of the canvas using some hot glue. Now let's go ahead and add the canvas back to the stand. It's just that simple. We have a beautiful little canvas that we can have on our tiered tray, put it on a desk or on a shelf. So the Dollar Tree carries these little paintable rocks from time to time for different seasons. And I don't really like the paints that come with it. They're just not enough colors and choices. So I've decided that I'm going to decoupage this little heart and see what happens. So we're using some Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster. Just going to use that paint and coat the entire rock. Once that paint has completely dried, I'm taking a napkin and we're just going to use the top layer of the napkin. And I use some painter's tape to help pull the top layer off of the bottom two layers of the napkin. And for this project, we're only going to need a quarter of the napkin. Now back to our heart rock. I'm using a mini little bowl to elevate my heart rock, but you can use whatever you can find that will elevate that up so you have a little bit of space. Next, I'm using some Mod Podge and I'm using the matte finish because I like that finish better. And I'm going to go ahead and just put a little dab of the Mod Podge in the center of my rock, and then I'll set down that piece of napkin and center it the way that I would like. Our next step here is very simple. We're just taking the Mod Podge and we're just going to paint from the center and going down the sides of the heart, we're going to just coat the napkin with the Mod Podge. The nice thing of having a bowl or something underneath your piece of rock, it helps you twist the item around so you're not having to move around the table as you're painting down that Mod Podge. Once you're satisfied with your Mod Podge, I take my heat tool and I just kind of give the Mod Podge a little bit of a helping hand and allow it to start the drying process. I then let this dry for about a half an hour after that to make sure everything was set on the rock. And once everything is dry, I grab my zip sander, but a sanding block would be just fine, and I just sand around the outside edge of the rock and remove any of the excess napkin. Now you could stop here and use this rock the way it is, but I thought I'd add a little bit more to this rock. So I'm using some Rub and Buff in the color Silver. I saw another creator use this technique, so I thought I'd try it this time. And I used a makeup applicator to apply the Rub and Buff to the pieces of the rock that I wanted to emphasize. I didn't expect to get that much Rub and Buff on my rock, so I did use a baby wipe to wipe off any of the excess. Once you're satisfied with the look, go ahead and set this aside to dry. And this rock now is ready to be used as a paperweight or on a tiered tray. So for this craft, we're going to make an ornament using a wood ornament from the Dollar Tree. I'm taking a napkin and I'm taking a little piece of painter's tape and I'm just going to take the top layer of the napkin off of the napkin. And with this napkin, I'm going to cut 2 of the square quadrants out, one for either side of this ornament. Let's start out by taking a little piece of painter's tape and tape down our wood ornament to a paintable surface. Once we have done that, I am using some Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster, and we're going to give a nice thick coat of paint over the top of this ornament. Once the paint has completely dried, I grab some Mod Podge and we're going to paint a nice coat over the top of the paint. And now that our Mod Podge is dry, I grab our piece of napkin and we're just going to layer that over the top of the Mod Podge. Next, I use a piece of parchment paper and lay that right over the top of the napkin. And using my heat press iron, I iron right over the top of the parchment paper, allowing the Mod Podge to warm up and allow the napkin to adhere to the piece of wood. Now this technique, we are going to go straight into sanding the napkin off of the wood ornament because we do not want any Mod Podge over the top of this to adhere to the surface when we're doing the next set of Mod Podge on the opposite side. So leaving it just the bare napkin will help with that. Trust me, I've tried it the wrong way and it did not turn out pretty. And once you are satisfied with the front of your ornament, we're going to flip the ornament over and repeat all of the same steps. Now that we have the ornament decoupage on both sides of the ornament, we're going to take our Mod Podge and do a sealing coat over the top of both sides. So it does take about a half an hour for it to dry completely, so you're not having anything stick on the counter when you're working with the surface. So just give yourself some patience and just flip them over when you need to seal the opposite side. Once everything is dry, you can go ahead and add your hanger to your ornament. I decided to add a quick sheer bow to the top of my heart, and I just hot glued that to the center. And here is what our finished ornament looks like. I love how this turns out. And for more decoupage fun, click on this video that's recommended. And please remember, craft more, stress less.